Week 17 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers that have his sleeper options this week. The first guy, Greg Joseph of the Minnesota Vikings. So Greg Joseph, he's been a solid kicker the last 3 seasons for this Viking team. But I know fantasy points have been few and far between. It's not his fault, obviously. Just relegated to a lot of extra points or chip shots, where this Viking team, they do get the football down the field. And then if they've had to settle for field goals, it's only been 25, 30 yarders for the most part. So the last few weeks for Joseph, week 14 at the Vegas Raiders, 2 points. Week 15 at the Bengals, 6. Week 16 versus the Lions, 6. And now week 17, a decent matchup versus the Packers, where their defense has given up a lot of points this season, where you could go up and down the field at them. And this is a great matchup, obviously, for Greg Joseph. A division matchup, indoor game Sunday night. And I think Joseph, if you need a kicker, deepest of leagues, available right now, 93% of fantasy leagues. Next kick is Ka'im Fairbairn of the Houston Texans. So Fairbairn, a great matchup this week versus the Titans that give up the most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And Fairbairn, when he plays for the most part, he gets opportunities and puts up points. I know he missed weeks 10 to week 14 with injury, but week 15 he came back at the same Tennessee team and had 17 fantasy points, where in that ball game he hit 2 50-plus yarders and 2 20 to 20 yarders and a point extra. So Tennessee, we know they're bend but don't break type of defense. Kickers have had field days this season versus them, and I think Fairbairn once again could go out there and be a sneaky sleeper option. Available right now, 96% of fantasy leagues. Like I said, he had the track record versus Tennessee and give up the most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And the third and final kicker I have is a sleeper. Is a guy I've mentioned a lot this season at the position, but still out there in 93% of leagues, is Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this Buck offense, they've taken off over the last month of the season, and McLaughlin's obviously been a big part of it with 3 games in a row with double-digit fantasy points. Week 14 at Atlanta, 11. Week 15 at Green Bay, 10. Week 16 versus Jacksonville, 14. And Week 17 here, a good matchup versus the New Orleans Saints that give up the 10th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And going back to Week 4 at this Saint team, he had 10 fantasy points, is Chase McLaughlin. So right now, like I said, the offense is clicking. They're scoring. They're putting points on the board. And McLaughlin was a good kicker last season with the Colts. And this season, he's been solid as well with Tampa Bay. And he's definitely a good sleeper option this week. So that's a few kickers that have his sleepers for Week 17 of the fantasy football season.